Welcome to the Storyteller's Mind Movie Makers. Hosted by Melissa Reaves, this podcast explores the art and science of stories that are felt, not just told. Ready to turn your message into superpower and ignite impact? Let's dive in on today's episode.
Hello, and welcome back to our episode of the Mind Movie Makers. I'm Melissa, and we're going to talk about how to follow time constraints. I personally love them when you are told you have X amount of time. Now, the shorter amount of time that you have, the more concise you need to be. But why is it important just overall to hit your time requests? It means that you as a professional are prepared and you are showing that you value this opportunity for you to speak. I have had the opportunity to coach a lot of people doing speeches and keynotes and whatnot, and it's interesting because I have seen presenters get up on stage and they've been told you have a minute and a half, and they decide, you know what, I'm going to speak from my heart. Well, you can speak from your heart. I want you to speak from your heart, but I want you to do it in 90 seconds. And I've seen speakers throw that out the window, and one person once took 4.5 minutes to present the speaker who was only going to be speaking for 3 minutes. So how is it okay that the presenter took longer than the actual honoree? That's what I want us to really think about. And I know that time constraints can put stress on people, but the antidote to that is preparation, is actually knowing the words you're going to say and spending the time every single day before you're going to be on that stage prepping. Now, if you don't have time because your schedule is so pulled, then I would recommend that your team has what you're going to say as a presenter so that your 90 seconds, even though you're reading it, is really concise and super vibrant in what you're saying, right? Because it's an honor to present an award to someone who's worked their whole life to get it. But it's not okay. I'm going to be honest about that. It's not okay for you to speak 4.5 minutes when the speaker themselves, who everyone's really excited to hear about, speaks only for 3 minutes. Just send me a note where that would defend that, oh, no, that's totally okay. I think we all know it's not. And why it's important for us to honor time constraints, there's a lot of reasons. One, it's professional. It shows you heard, you listened, and you're taking that 90 seconds very seriously, and you want to put your best foot forward. When you go up and you wing it, there are risks involved, and mostly what that could be is that you're going to see meandering, which when I saw the gentleman who spoke for 4.5 minutes, he was meandering, he was tangenting, he was moving all over the place, and the audience was literally like, what's going on? And that's not what we want. We want the presenter to be amazing, get everyone excited for the honoree to take their award, and then everyone is hitting their times. That's a joyous decision. Another reason why when you don't hit your marks is it has a cause and effect. So in award shows in particular, there's a lot of moving pieces, right? There's intros, there's videos, there's interviews happening, there's just so much going on. But there are people on the production side who have literally plotted out minute by minute. It's amazing how incredible their detail attention is. And so you want to honor that and not have things go over where suddenly someone has to get cut because so-and-so spoke for 10 minutes when they were only supposed to speak for 5. Right? The audience gets itchy. I heard another one where a guy basically threw out everything that we had prepped. We had him ready for that 90 seconds. And just before he steps on, he leans over and says, I'm going to speak from the heart. And I'm like, you were speaking from the heart. What does that mean? What do you mean you're going to speak from the heart? We know that. We know that. What do you go? Oh, and he got up and people said to me, he just was rambling. Like, it made no sense. And that was really unfortunate because we had him ready. He was ready to go. It was going to be beautiful. It was going to be funny. It was going to be great. And it ended up not even being an intro for the honoree. It ended up being a talk about him and his family member. That wasn't his job, okay? So time constraints are really important to honor just on a business and technical level, okay? So I'm the one that's going to say, please honor your time. Now, with the beauty of AI, I mean, I use my Missy AI, and she has been amazing because when we're writing speeches that have times like that, we go and get the story, we get all the people that we want to acknowledge, we get it scripted out, and then we can use AI to say, okay, make this 3 minutes worthy. And the AI can tell you how many words you actually need. Okay. Now, I would take it down even a few more words, take it down a little bit more, because when you're doing your speech or doing your honoree or whatever it is that you're getting, if you have less words than what's necessary, means you're giving yourself a padding of time where you can take your time when you're talking. You're not just going really fast because you want to hit the time and you've got so much to say. Say less, but say it slower and say it with more heart behind it. And that's when you're going to wow the audience, right? That's when they're going to be like, whoa, they're listening to you. You're telling them stories. It's great. And sometimes it's a long story. Sometimes it's a short story. Sometimes it's just a feeling that you had with the person that you have the honor of being able to present their award to. Just something that's personal, right? Or you can talk about something similar in your life, but just know you only have 90 seconds. That's about 75 words, right? It might be a little bit more. We'll see, but just take your time. And that's where you can use AI. The other thing that you need to do is you need to practice. You need to make sure you're saying it out loud. And then that way, the more you know it, that if something happens, there's a large sound that happens in the room and everyone's attention gets a little distracted, you're still on point. You can handle it because you've practiced. The athletes that I work with, they practice their game. Well, it's time for them to practice their public speaking even more. You got to run some scrimmage there, man. You got to get it going. So I just really think that time constraints need to be honored, but I also believe that they force the speaker to edit, to be concise, to say things once, not 4 different ways, to stay with a story, not tell 2 or 3 stories at once. All of these things can happen when you're ill-prepared. And when you go over your time, it's not really fair to everybody else, okay? So time constraints are great because they make you really have to think it through. Now, if you have a 45-minute talk, that's awesome. That's great. But now you have more stories that you need to be able to tell. And so let's say you have 45 minutes, and let's just for easy math say that you have 3 stories that are going to be tied to the point of your talk. Each story will have some teachings. You'll tell the story, and then you'll have some and this is what I did, and here are my 5 points, and the teaching part of why you're talking about this subject. The story itself that you're going to tell is probably 3 minutes, maybe 5, okay? And you need to know that because now you have 10 minutes where you're going to be doing the teaching. You're going to be pulling your charts and your graphs, and then maybe at the end of that 15-minute chunk, you bring something back from your opening story. That's putting heart behind the chart, okay? And then the next story, and if this is a presentation where you have slides, we're going to have transition slides that will show the audience, change gears now, I'm moving into my second story, okay? And the story, again, is what opens it. It's vivid. We can see it. We know your characters. You're saying things beautifully and concisely, and you've practiced, and you've got all the elements of what makes a mind movie up. That if you're curious about that, definitely listen to other of the podcasts on this channel, as well as you can get my book, The Storyteller's Mind Movie, where I walk you through how to create great, compelling stories that you can tell over and over and over again. But most of the stories that you tell in business, and that could be your personal founder story, customer success story, a hard lesson learned story, those are all amazing stories to have in your story library. But all of them can be told in 2 to 3 minutes. If your story's going on for 8, that's too long. That's too long. That means you got some, as I say in the book, you got some weed whacking to do. You got to edit. We want to see your garden. We don't want to see all the weeds all over the place. And the weeds are repetitive phrases, vague phrases, two stories at once, as I said earlier. There's a lot that can happen that can turn a 2 to 3 minute story into a very long story. But when you've got a 2 or 3 minute story that's rich in detail, the speaker has used very clear, concise choices. They are connected through all of it to their audience. That is magic. That is magic. And more people can do that than they even know or believe. But I can tell you that in my entire career, and remember, for the last 8 years of my life, I have been coaching people on how to be very powerful presenters. I have been successful with every single one, except when someone's resistance is up. And when their resistance is up, meaning they don't want to do it, the negative voices going off in their heads, they're not preparing, they're not doing all those things, that's so unfortunate for them. Okay? Because sometimes they just don't have total belief in what they're saying. They don't want to do it. They're more concerned with what everyone's thinking about them. They've got the chatterbox going. I talk about that in other episodes. It just gets in the way. And you know what? Your stories and your career are unique to you. And no one can tell a story from your perspective except for you. So think about those moments in your life that mattered, because they could be crafted into really amazing lessons that you can teach other people. Have them in your own personal story library, and then know that whenever you're asked to speak publicly, you've got them. And they're all like 2 to 3 minutes. Maybe you have 5-minute versions of them as well, but they're there. And so now that time constraint that you get is far less stressful, right? It's far less stressful. It's not like, what am I going to talk about? You're going to be like, which story do I want to choose? Which story do I want to choose? That is a power place when you have done the work. And here's the other thing. Building your story library is so much fun. And knowing that you can tell a story long and or short is fantastic. So that's all I wanted to say this week about time constraints. They need to be honored. And that comes from preparation. That comes from doing your homework. And that comes from doing an ongoing story library build out of your key moments in your life. All right. Like, comment, share. Let me know what you think. Have you ever seen someone on stage that went on forever and ever and ever? What'd you think? And have you ever seen anyone tell something really quick, but you can't stop thinking about it because of what images and feelings they were able to put inside your mind? They were using their own speaking magic to really touch your heart. And that's ultimately what we want. We don't want to say, hey, here's Jim. He's going to get an award. Isn't that great? No, we want to know a little bit about Jim. You're the primer. You're the one that's going to get it ready. What can you tell about Jim to this audience that makes them go, oh my goodness, I can't wait to hear from him? Because in that case, Jim's the star. You're the support. All right. So professionalism is required. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I really love the comments I'm getting from you. Many of you are reaching out, and it makes me feel great. Also, watch that for our podcast, we're going to be moving into a studio soon. So I'm excited about that myself. And if there's a topic that you want me to talk about when it comes to storytelling, presentations, executive presence, story libraries for your company, reach out to me, because that helps me build the content for you. Okay? Have a great week, and we will see you soon.
Thank you for joining the Storyteller's Mind Movie Makers. To build your story library and turn lived experiences into unforgettable mind movies, subscribe, leave a comment or review, and share this podcast. For fast, reliable support and coaching, subscribe to Missy AI, our AI storytelling coach, available at storyfruition.com. And don't forget to follow @StoryFruition on YouTube and Instagram for more storytelling tips and live coaching. Thank you for listening. Until next time, keep crafting, keep sharing, and remember, tell your stories and tell them well.